You are still praying, but something feels thinner now. Not louder doubts, just a quiet weakening you can't fully name. You wonder why obedience feels heavier than it used to, why worship feels distant, why God's silence no longer shocks you, but slowly drains you. At first, you tell yourself this is just a season. Everyone has them. You keep showing up, even when you feel nothing. But underneath that discipline, something else is happening. Your expectations are shrinking. Not your faith vocabulary, but your inner reach. You stop asking for much. Not because you don't believe God can act, but because waiting has trained you to brace instead of hope. This is where faith often weakens, not in rebellion, but in quiet self-protection. You don't stop believing God is real. You stop believing His response will matter to you. You still read Scripture, but now you read it defensively. You skim past the promises that feel too risky to trust. You begin to call it maturity, stability, but deep down it feels more like retreat. Psalm 13:1. You tell yourself you're being patient, but patience slowly turns into emotional distance. You are present, but no longer vulnerable. Silence stretches on, and instead of wrestling with God, you manage your disappointment. That management feels wise until it hollows you. Another tension rises. You start comparing your inner life to others, not publicly, but quietly. You notice how easily they speak about God's nearness, how confident they sound. You wonder if you missed something you were supposed to understand by now. So you adjust again. You lower the temperature of your faith. You aim for endurance, not intimacy. But endurance without desire is fragile. It survives, but it does not strengthen. And faith was never meant to live on survival alone. Hebrews 11:6. Here is the harder question you avoid. What if the silence is not weakening your faith? What if the way you are responding to it is? Not sin in the obvious sense, not walking away, but slowly replacing trust with control. You begin to decide what God probably won't do. You narrow the possibilities. You protect yourself from being disappointed again. That protection feels responsible, but it quietly trains your heart to expect absence. You still obey, but you obey without expectancy. And obedience without expectancy eventually becomes heavy. Isaiah 30:18. There is a moment in every silent season when you choose what kind of waiting this will be. One that stays open, or one that closes quietly to survive. Closed waiting looks calm. It looks faithful on the outside, but inside it stops listening. Open waiting costs more. It requires you to admit you still want God to move, even after disappointment. That desire feels dangerous now, because wanting again risks pain again. So you tell yourself you are fine without answers. But unanswered prayers are not what weaken faith most. Unexpressed longing does. Because longing is where trust either breathes or suffocates. Lamentations 3:31-33. You feel the tension again. If you open your heart, you might hurt. If you keep it closed, you will slowly drift. There is no painless option here, only honest ones. Faith does not grow where you numb yourself. God's silence is not permission to disengage. It is an invitation to bring the full weight of your waiting to Him, even when you feel unsure He will respond soon. This is where clarity finally comes. Faith weakens when silence teaches you to expect less from God than He has revealed of Himself, not because He has changed, but because you adjusted to cope. Psalm 62:5. You are not being asked to force emotion. You are being asked to refuse withdrawal, to keep your inner posture open, even when answers delay. Quiet faith is not passive faith. It is active trust without visible reinforcement, and that kind of trust must be chosen again and again. So here's the challenge that remains. Stop protecting yourself from God. Let the silence expose what you've lowered, not what you've lost. Wait with honesty. Obey with expectancy, and allow faith to remain vulnerable, even when God feels quiet. Because faith is not proven by how loudly God speaks. It is proven by whether you stay open when He does not.